I'm all set.
So I definitely need to get this chocolate sauce going. So I just take my cream, pour it straight into that pot. I just want to bring that bitterness to counteract the super sweet salty caramel ice cream. So I give a good splash of bourbon there.
Look it. Notice the natural light as soon as you walk in. It's very beautiful. You've got your vapor powder, actually a 3-piece washer. And you guys have a problem with storage, correct?
That's what Hillary's there for. Give you storage. Absolutely.
She's gonna give you a front closet that's a walk-in?
No. Wow.
Look at it, I can put my shoes.
I never expected a counter closet like this.
Oh, Porter's already in trouble. Laundry, it's on your main floor, not in a dark, dingy basement. Does this work for you?
This is working for me. It's more convenient, that's for sure.
I want you to imagine you've got people over, you've got friends over, family.
Hey, Bruce, do you know who that is?
Look around at this.
No, guys, you gotta mute yourself, guys. Russell?
Keep the bingo conversation to the bingo hall, please. How are you tonight, Bruce W. Cronauer?
I'm doing good, sir. How about yourself?
Good, good, thanks.
You all ready for a big night?
Well, I hope so. I think so. How about you, more importantly?
Ready to learn something new?
I meant as far as running the thing and, then archiving it, whatever else you have to do.
Yeah, ready to go.
Good. Bruce, when we get started, Scott Campbell's gonna, kind of chime in, and then I think he's gonna have Big Mike Bartram on for a little bit about the rule changes. Big Mike, and then it'll go to myself. So Steve Citro is going to eventually share his screen with the group, and I think Dave Race.
Is Steve on here?
Yeah, he's on. Yeah.
I just logged in, Bruce.
See his name pop. Oh, there he is. Hi, Stevie.
Hey, Bruce.
Yeah. So, and I think Dave is going to do the chat room or whatever. And sometimes I see that, sometimes I don't, but anybody can help with that and stuff. So, yep.
Are you there?
I guess so.
Precisely.
So what's the half alone?
And I think Scott's going to jump right on Bruce at 7:30. So,
Okay. Well, I'll introduce him and we'll go from there.
works for me. Anything for you, Bruce W.
Let's see if he's on here. Hang on a second.
Not sure.
No, he's still not here yet.
Okay. All
And
right.
it's so I got 6 minutes yet, too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Makeup work, and it's for everyone with a blush oil.
Bruce, who's good at finding out who the
It goes on there.
people that don't have their phones muted? Does anybody know how to do that?
I believe I can mute them all. Hang on a second. I'm trying to get to that.
Why don't you do that until you get started?
Okay, these are cool. These are
Come on, Bruce,
classic
figure it out.
from LLB, Bowie tote. Did you know these were invented in the 40s to lug around ice from?
The next day, I hit it and I actually.
There you go, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure everyone else on the call also appreciates your technical expertise in handling that. Yeah. Mhm. That might be able to tell you who it is then, Bruce. I don't know. So
Yeah.
it's all right. Tom Becker said he's having a problem getting audio to the meeting. Tom, I don't know if you hear me. This is Jim. I wish I could help you. Apologize that I cannot.
If Tom is there and he can hear me, Tom, why don't you sign off and sign back on? That might be a good way to do it. Okay, still looking. Last time I looked in was 380, I believe was the number for participants tonight.
Well, we know there's always a difference between those who've registered and those who actually get on, but that's all right. I mean, that's, no worries. Thank you.
Joe Saw also sent me an email at work today saying that whatever group he belongs to, the baseball, they had their mandatory meeting tonight. So some of the guys on that, they
Okay,
usually come here are going to go to that.
gotcha. Gotcha.
Hey, Bruce, when you have a chance, I just need to be co-host or whatever so I could share my screen.
Okay.
Bruce, it's Kermit.
Hey. Hello, Kermit. How are you? Steve, it should be all set for you, right? Citro?
It says Steve Citro is now the co-host along with you, Mr. Cronauer.
There's Mr. Campbell. He just popped on.
Yeah, technology challenged again.
Oh, Scott.
Good evening, everyone.
Hang on a second, Scott. Steve, did you get the co-host, Steve?
Yeah, screen sharing is now working for me. We're good.
Okay.
Good.
Scott, we got about 2 minutes, looks like, before we'll give you the floor.
You got it.
Scott, is that the first time we've all seen you without your glasses?
Yeah, these are one of my seven.
Oh, okay, there they are. All right,
These are
okay.
one of my 700 pair of cheaters I have laying around between here and my office.
Just wondering. Thought something looked a little bit different initially, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
They lay all over my house like shoes.
Tom Becker reports in the chat room he's still having trouble. And Peter, I'm not even gonna try to say his name, has no picture. Not sure what to do about that, but apologize, guys.
Okay, I'll work with Tom here on his sound thing. But without further ado, it's 7:30.
Let's go.
Mr. Scott Campbell's going to start us off, and then I think Mr. Mike Bertram's going to chip in after him, and then we'll turn it over to both Steve Citro and Jim Kapora. Scott?
All right. Thank you, Bruce. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back again to the second session we have scheduled for the spring. And tonight's presentation will be made by, as Bruce said, Jim and Steve, one of the assistants. And then Jim is also going to present on February 22nd. We have the next one scheduled, so everybody want to mark that one down. Same time, and that will be that program that evening will be a very important one, which we all love and is dear to our hearts, OPI and DPI. So couple things real fast, little housekeeping. Once Jim gets started with the presentation and everything, I just ask everybody to stop the video portion of their screen and just enjoy. And if you have any questions, raise them through the chat. And Bruce, you'll be monitoring them again this evening. Am I correct? He's already muted himself.
Dave Race and I will be doing it.
Dave, okay, thank you. Just a reminder to everybody, the Sayreville Clinic will be, again, we're going to announce this all the time, so it'll be beaten into your head, because we want to make sure everybody has that. Is August 5th at Sayreville High School, and it'll open up for registration on May 17th. So let's just keep an eye out for that. Next thing is we'll be seeing an email coming out in the next day or two with regards to any suggestions that members might have for mechanics changes. You'll receive that email through your chapter, and you'll submit it accordingly with the directions on how make sure it gets to, so eventually gets to the committee and everybody be able to have their suggestion considered. So you will see that email coming out. And as everybody should have gotten the email with regards to the NFHS rule changes that went out the other day. And without any hesitation, I'm going to turn that portion over to Mike Bartram. And then after that, Jim will get started on his presentation for this evening. So Mike Bartram, your turn.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Yeah, so I sent that email out the other day to all the officials in the state, so you should have that. Right now, it's just a press release from the Federation. As I start getting some more information from Indianapolis, I'll be sure to flow that out to everyone. I would anticipate it'll probably be later in the spring. The May timeframe is when usually they'll start providing some additional information what the editorial changes are actually going to be. So in the meantime, just go ahead, take a look at the press release and start getting your minds around some of those changes. Obviously, the enforcement spot for fouls behind the line of scrimmage is the biggie. And just like everyone else, I'll be interested to see what some of the languages on how they set some of the other things. But if you have any questions about anything that's been out there, please feel free to contact me directly or go through your chapters. But other than that, that's all I have right now, and looking forward to more information as it becomes available.
All right, Mike, thank you. And what we've all been waiting for is a presentation tonight by Jim Kapora. And just to say before we get started, we appreciate Jim's input, because I know he's spoken down at our chapter, and he of course spoken at the Sayreville Clinic, and everybody's had him around, and we get a lot from it. And we'll thank you in advance, Jim. So at this point, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Scott. And thanks to all the folks that have signed on here on this winter Wednesday night. So what we're going to talk about tonight primarily are referee announcements, and with Steve Citro's technical assistance, put together what we think will be an informative PowerPoint. And I have to say right from the beginning, a couple things. What you're going to see here tonight, I've stolen from Jerry Markwright and Brad Allen primarily. Been fortunate enough to have met Jerry Mark Wright, and about 7 or 8 years ago, we had him into our spring clinic in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And to say that it was that he was very well received would certainly be an understatement. And then Brad and I think I might have mentioned previously, had a great privilege of being on Brad Allen's ACC crew for 4 years. And it's been, reflecting back, certainly one of the highlights of my life. But at any rate, so what we're trying to do here is just kind of give an overview, generally speaking, and then in some cases, particular relative to referee announcements. And if Steve can go to the first slide, after the initial one there, Steve, you can go to the next one. One of the things that is absolutely, I think, imperative to mention, and our mechanics committee has spoken about this already, folks, and we're going to bring it up when we meet, I believe it's in March, the NJFOA 6-man mechanics committee. Starting in 2023, we want every referee to make an announcement on every foul as if you're mic'd up. Now, we certainly realize you may not be, but that said, more and more and more schools are asking the referee to be mic'd up. I know I had the privilege last year, I was out with a knee injury, but doing some clocks and stuff. And of the schools that I did clocks at, 3 of them this is regular season, 3 of them wanted the referee to use the microphone. At one time, I think they were pretty expensive. My understanding is the cost has decreased significantly. So using the mic is going to become more and more prevalent. And it's not just playoff games, but regular season games as well. So we want to kind of plant the seed in everybody's mind. And I'll reference an NFL game of a couple of weeks ago in a few moments relative to this. But so let's all of us, whether you're a referee or not, in this context is really, really irrelevant. But referees, we want you to get into the habit of making an announcement on every foul. And with that said, then it just stands to reason that we have a very consistent kind of a blueprint rule of thumb approach for that. So the first bullet, and I apologize for, reading, I certainly understand everybody can do that. But again, more and more schools are wanting the referee to use the stadium microphone. I know I got a call last year in the middle of the year from a local NJSIA school that had spent, I don't remember how much money, but on a whole sound system. And the athletic director called me because the referee did not want to use the microphone. And he said, can we make him do it? And I said, well, I don't know if that's the issue or not. But again, we want to get to the point where this is just an accepted part of officiating. Okay. Whether or not you have a mic, you should make announcements. You're going to hear me say that time and again today. So please forgive the redundancy. There's no question, is the last bullet there. Using the mic is the single best way to communicate. And if you think about football today and all the complexities that are involved in the game and whatnot, the microphone is absolutely, without question, the single best way to communicate. And it stands to reason, folks, if the referee does it well, if he or she is well-versed, articulate, comes across well, it is a great enhancement to the crew. And conversely, if the referee's announcements are not good, it really detracts from the credibility of the crew. So my point to everyone tonight, and in particular to referees, is please get used to doing it. It's not difficult, and it pays great dividends when done properly for the crew. So it really enhances what we're trying to do throughout the state. So, okay, Steve? So you see here, and some of you would remember the NFL referee on the left, he's deceased now, but his name was Ben Dreith, and he was from Colorado, and I never had the opportunity to meet him, but some of you would remember, and you can kind of see the what he's doing there. He made an announcement back in like the 90s when a player had been called for a dead ball, late hit, I believe it was, and somebody just typed in Jets-Bills game, okay? And he said, number, whatever it is, giving him the business. And everybody thought it was funny and stuff like that. And we had an ACC referee, a guy named Ron Cherry, who did the same thing one time. My understanding is Ben Dreith was reprimanded severely by the NFL. Ron Cherry, not so much. And okay, it might have been Mark Gastineau. I don't remember that. That's fine. But the point of it is referees' microphone use cannot be overstated. When it's good, it's real good. And when it's bad, it's real bad. So a couple thoughts, be original. Don't get cute with your announcements, i.e. Mr. Dreith or the gentleman I referred to, Ron Cherry. Be informative, but be short and sweet. Okay. Now, how do you get people's attention? Well, one of the things a lot of referees do is they'll tap on the mic, okay, just prior to beginning to speak. And the question is always asked, well, where should I keep the mic as a referee? And the answer is it's an individual thing. It's an individual thing. If you're comfortable with it, like on the left side of your belt or on the right side, whatever, it's an individual thing. That's for you as a referee to decide. There is no standard, well, it has to be here, it has to be there, whatever the case would be. Yeah, there's usually a little toggle switch. You have to certainly feel comfortable using that. Okay, but where you put it on your belt is really up to each individual referee. So with that said, okay, if the crowd is loud, whatever, it doesn't matter. Speak over the crowd noise. Don't yell, don't scream, but by all means, speak over the crowd noise, right? You're making an announcement and the crowd is not going to influence you or stop you or anything like that. So think about the concept there, getting their attention. Thoughts of using the mic, okay? Now, this is something new, and this is in the National Federation Manual, and we're going to put it into the NJ SIA 6-man manual. Referees, it is perfectly permissible for you to announce the player's number. For example, false start, number 79, 5-yard penalty, replay second down. In the past, we might have just not said the player's number, but the Federation does permit the announcement of a player's number, which brings up this situation. If the calling official, suppose the umpire has a holding foul or the linesman has an illegal motion or something, okay? If they didn't get the number, please do not invent a number. I want to share a story with you, one that I've told oftentimes at clinics I've been privileged to speak at. Back in about 2009 or 10, I had the opportunity to work a Virginia Tech Boston College game when Matt Ryan was at Boston College. Long story short, early in the game, the line judge had a defensive offside against Virginia Tech. And the coach at the time was a guy named Frank Beamer, very, very good coach, extremely well-coached team, very fundamentally sound. At any rate, what began to happen, he said, okay, I need a number. And we didn't have O2Os then. And I said, Coach, when I have an opportunity, I'll get the number. The line judge was on the other sideline. I said, I'll get it from him. He said, all right. Well, on the same drive, there's another offside against Virginia Tech. And now Coach Beamer's pretty hot. He said, hey, we don't commit penalties. We don't beat ourselves. What's going on here? This and that, the other thing. So, Coach, the very next play, I had a DPI right at Coach Beamer's feet. So now it was probably the most volatile that I've ever seen him in the years that I had the opportunity to work his games. So Boston College goes down. If I remember, Matt Ryan actually ran a quarterback draw to score a touchdown. So it's 7-0. And after the extra point, I went to the line judge and I said, hey, what number did you have the 2 offsides against Virginia Tech on? He said, number 78. I said, okay, thanks. So I go back up the sideline. We're on a TV commercial and Coach Beamer's, talking on a headset with somebody. But when I had an opportunity, I said, Coach, I said, both of the offside fouls were on number 78. And I mean to tell you, folks, he stopped in his tracks. He turned around. He said, who? I said, number 78. He said, that's really good. And he got a little bit profane. And I said, what's the problem with that, Coach? He said, that's Bruce Smith's number. We retired that number in 1995. And I'm like, hang on, Coach. And I ran across the field to the line judge at the other goal line. Again, we didn't have O2Os. The gentleman's first name was Sterling Allen. He's a dentist in South Carolina. I said, Sterling, come with me. Well, come with me. So it turned out that it should have been 87. But of course, by that time, the cat was out of the bag. And Coach Beamer was, he was very, very upset. First drive of the game, you guys are killing me. The whole thing that in a situation like that, you're going to hear. And just as a side, at one point, After the kickoff, they got the ball, and he actually said he kept it up. He was just continually, this is BS. This is terrible. You guys are. I said, Coach Beamer, nobody has more respect for you than I do, but I've heard enough. Now let it go. And he kind of glared at me, and the game continued. And then we had a punt, I think it was. We were another TV timeout. And he actually came up to me and he tapped me on my shoulder and he said, Jim, I said, yes, coach. He said, I apologize. Thanks for putting me back on my place. I'll never forget it. But announcements, it gets back to that. Very, very important. Okay. Make them accurate. If we don't have a number, and that happens sometimes, a lot of times on a face mask foul, it's very difficult to ascertain the number of a player on a face mask foul. If we don't have a number for sure, please don't invent a number. And I mentioned it, and you'll see in a couple minutes here, Jerry Markwright, I stole a lot of his ideas. He came to our clinic, like I said, about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. And I don't know how many folks on here might remember a famous NFL referee by the name of Tommy Bell. When I was a kid, Tommy Bell was like the NFL referee. His number was 7. I found out later on in my life that he was a lawyer from Louisville, Kentucky. I think he died pretty early, but he was like the NFL referee. Everybody knew him. His microphone work was fantastic. And Jerry Markwright told us this story at our clinic. And he said his first year in the NFL, he was privileged to work with Tommy Bell. And the league wanted him to kind of get used to working with, and seeing how a great referee worked and whatnot. And Jerry Markwright started out as a line judge. And his first game ever was a preseason game in Kansas City. So Tommy Bell told him before the game, he reminded him, he said, Jerry, listen to me. I don't care if you're right or wrong, whatever it is, but if you call a foul, get the number, so I can announce it. It's very important. And Jerry said, Tommy, no problem, got it, all that kind of stuff, so on. Well, the first foul Jerry Markwright ever had in the history of his career in the NFL was a simple defensive offside. He throws the flag, the plays run, it's a preseason game, and he goes to Tommy Bell. He says, Tommy, I got offside on Kansas City. And Tommy Bell said, what's the number? And Jerry Markwright goes, oh my God, Tommy, I'm sorry, I didn't get the number, but it won't happen again. And Tommy Bell, and if you can appreciate this, the moment at the time, Tommy Bell got on the mic and he made this announcement. Offside on the defense. He didn't get the number. He's a rookie. 5-yard penalty, repeat first down. And Jerry Markwright tells the story 1,000 times better than I could. He was a part of it. But he said, he goes, oh my God, I never felt lower. He said, well, I'm gonna tell you what, it never happened again. And all the years that Jerry Markwright was a referee, the same exact thing happened. Okay. He told his officials, just give me a number. But again, if we don't have a number, then the referee should simply say holding offense and just let it go. Don't announce it on, just holding offense, 10-yard penalty, replay second down, whatever the scenario would be. Okay. And lastly there, don't use terminology uncommon to fans. Okay. It's better to say prior to the play, false start, number 71, 5-yard penalty, whatever. Dead ball fouls, that's fans don't relate to that as much as prior to the play. So that's verbiage that we want you to use. In the quotes there, prior to the play is better verbiage than dead ball foul. Okay, Steve. And speaking of Jerry Markwright, and there he is on the right and the left, okay. Jerry Markwright does an entire presentation just on using the microphone. And again, I've stolen a lot of that from him. Okay, so Jerry lives outside of Chicago. He's, every now and then I'll give him a call or whatever, but he still works for the NFL in a capacity with referees. So using the microphone, first thing is, and this is something that Mark Bitar and I have spoken about, what we don't do well in New Jersey. And the first meeting of the year that I think Mark was on for this, one of his comments was, we're not really efficient. And that's the word I like to use with penalty enforcement. The first thing as a referee is get clear of players. That does not mean you have to run 20 yards. Just step away from players, stop. And this shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 seconds. Referees, again, to be repetitive, do not run 20 yards so you're clear of everybody. If a foul happens on a sideline and that's where it's reported to you, maybe a dead ball, late hit out of bounds or a piling on or something like that, do not come all the way to the hash to make the announcement. Just step away. Obviously, always face the press box, as the second bullet says there, okay? But do not run 15, 20 yards to quote, get in the open. Just get clear of players. Just get clear of players. Be still and fixate your eyes at the bottom of the press box. That's a real good rule of thumb for referees to have when they're making announcements. Fixate your eyes at the bottom of the press box, okay? Speak clearly, and most importantly, do not rush. We want you to articulate the verbiage. It should not be something like false start number 78, second down. There's no reason to rush the announcement. Take your time, give a good announcement with a good signal simultaneously. You see there Jerry Markbright giving a personal foul signal, okay? You can't see the press box there, and that's, of course, when they were wearing white knickers and all that stuff that we don't do any longer, all right? But fixate your eyes on the press box and be still. Do not be moving when you give an announcement, okay? Some thoughts about improving communication. Use terms like offense, defense, kicking team, and receiving team. Offense, everybody relates to that. The fans, the coaches, everyone in the stadium itself. Offense, defense, kicking team, receiving team. And then examples where you would say holding, 10-yard penalty, replay second down. And again, we want to know holding, offense, number 78, 10-yard penalty, replay second down. Now, as Mike Bartram alluded to at the beginning of this, Big Mike, one of the big rule changes, and I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you on the call tonight, read this. This year in Federation, for the first time in history, and if I may say so, it's long overdue. We now have, if the foul is behind the line of scrimmage, we're going to enforce that from the previous spot. So first of all, just hypothetically, say the opening kickoff of the game is a touchback. 1st and 10 on the 20. And on first down, the quarterback goes back to pass and he throws it incomplete, whatever the case would be. And there's a holding foul at the 14-yard line by the offense. We know in past years, if the defense accepted that foul, we would go from the 14 back to the 7, half the distance. This year, and Mike will articulate down the road at one of these Zoom meetings, but it's a previous spot foul. And I can hear the hallelujahs in the background. This is so long overdue. It's putting high school football in the modern age. Okay. In the past, it's just I see 3 people typing in, or 1 person. Amen to that. Exactly. So now we're just going previous spot. And again, I know Mike, Big Mike will articulate that down the road, but that's probably the biggest rule change for 2023. Long overdue. This way, this year, if an offensive team gets a 10 or 15-yard foul, it's not going to guarantee that they almost have no chance of making the first down. So it's a great change. I don't know how it finally happened. I know Bob Masucci has been an advocate of this forever and ever. And I don't know if Bob's on the call, but if he is, I know he's smiling because I know he strived for this for a long time. At any rate, another example, personal foul, roughing the passer defense, number 51, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down. Again, don't rush it, be clear, okay? And certainly we don't ever want the referee to be personal in making an announcement. A number of years ago, I graded a high school playoff game in Pennsylvania, and there was probably the most clear, lucid example I've ever seen in my life of roughing the passer. I mean, not only was it late, but the defender took this quarterback and flung him down and dove on him. And it was an easy call, but the referee took his flag and literally like fired it down to the ground like he was throwing a fastball from up over his head. And it was a terrible optic, just a terrible like photo of this. And after the game, when I critiqued the crew, I said, hey, it's still 15 yards. You're really rubbing salt into the wound. You don't want to do that. You can't get your emotions involved in throwing the flag nor in the announcement. Okay. So think about these things, which will hopefully, it's like anything else in life. The more you do it, the better you get at it. One of the things you'll see is, you can practice your announcements anytime. Former Big Ten referee Bill Lamagna, who fortunate to call a friend, he used to have his daughter listen and watch his announcements. He would do this like in the off season or during the week. He would practice giving announcements, signals, speaking, and his daughter would critique him. Daddy, that's good, or Daddy, you spoke too fast, or whatever. So you want to really create a great enhancement for your crew. And the microphone, I'll repeat this probably more than one more time, is the greatest way to communicate during a football game. And when you are good on the mic as a referee, you gain credibility, not just for yourself, but for your crew, amongst players, coaches, and the people, ADs, all that kind of stuff. So it cannot be overstated. Okay, Steve, let's go to the next one, please.
Jim, we have a question in the box.
Okay.
It says, will the penalty, do we announce the penalty will be enforced from the previous spot?
That's a great question. I'm not sure who asked it. Whoever it is deserves kudos. It's a great question. Some referees say yes, some don't like it. I believe that should be each referee's personal choice. The problem with doing it is if you say, for example, 10-yard penalty from the previous spot, and let's just say that it's half the distance, it kind of throws people off. So that's a great question. I think each referee has to make his or her individual decision. And at the end of the day, you have to do what you feel most comfortable doing. I know the former, the guy got fired, but the former ACC supervisor, Dennis Hennigan, never wanted a referee to announce like 15 yards, automatic first down. He only wanted automatic first down. A lot of times coaches wanted a little bit more information. So again, that's a great question. I'm not sure who asked it, but whoever did, good for you. Maybe the mechanics committee will get a little more definitive about it, but I will say tonight, February 8th, as far as I'm concerned, each referee should determine how specific he or she wants to be. So that's thanks, Dave, for bringing that to the chat box question. So, okay, again, Jerry Mark, right, let's start on the left once again, using the microphone, okay? And this is a very, very frequent mistake. A lot of times when the referee gives the announcement, he begins to turn and look and point towards the team that is the team that committed the foul. You don't want to do that. Again, fix your eyes to the bottom of the press box and keep them there. When you signal, your face, your head should still be fixated at the bottom of the press box. Do not turn. It kind of gives the impression you're rubbing it in. There's a Big Ten referee that has gotten chastised numerous times because he takes a step and he turns, and it's just a really bad optic. And again, folks, right or wrong, we're living in a day and age when, again, the penalty itself, whatever it is, 5, 10, 15, half the distance, whatever, it doesn't matter. That is, in fact, enough. Whether you rub it in or not, it doesn't change the enforcement. So be professional, be steady, be clear, be concise. Okay, again, don't say on the defense, just say, okay, holding defense. Don't say holding on the defense. It's just holding defense, 10-yard penalty. You know, what from the end of the run, again, if you want to say from the end of the run or the previous spot, that get comfortable that as a referee when you practice. And if you don't feel comfortable, then just say holding defense, 10-yard penalty, you know, number 18, whatever the scenario was. Okay. To the right of the slide. And again, there you see Jerry Mark right in his prime. Describe the foul only if you're sure. For example, illegal kicking of the ball versus illegal kick. Anything unusual, sometimes we get ourselves in trouble when we make announcements, and that we don't want to do that. We want to be, the words that I was taught years ago are to be concise and clear. Concise and clear. If something requires a little bit of a longer explanation, so be it. But again, please practice it, because if you don't practice it and then you try to do it in the middle of a game, it's very probable it's not going to go well. So describe the foul only if the umpire comes up to the referee and says, I got a takedown. Referees do not announce a takedown. That's a hold. You want to stick to the rules, to the verbiage, like we said earlier. Don't get cute, don't get sweet. Holding, number 51, offense, 10-yard penalty, whatever. Okay? Don't say he took him down or he threw him down. That's not acceptable for the referee, even if it's reported to you, that way by the calling official. And referees, we'll talk about this at Sayreville. We're going to have a separate breakout thing on the microphone use. Short, concise, clear, but insist on your crew that they provide you football verbiage. A takedown is not a football verbiage. Hold is. So use that kind of verbiage. Use the same verbiage, the same language that the referee would use if you're the calling official. If I have a defensive pass interference penalty, I'm not going to go up to the referee and say there was early contact. I'm simply going to tell him it's defensive pass interference. Number 18, whatever the scenario would be. Okay, if we have to pick up a flag, and we do that from time to time, and rightfully so. Let's say hypothetically we have a foul for ineligible receiver downfield, but the fact is that it was a screen pass and the ball never crossed the line of scrimmage. So if we have a flag there, we need to pick it up, and the referee needs to make an announcement. And the thought here, they don't recommend any longer actually waving the flag. They don't recommend that. They want you to keep your flag in your pocket and simply announce there is no foul for ineligible receiver downfield because the ball did not cross the line of scrimmage. That's a perfectly acceptable verbiage. And again, they don't want referees waving the flag when a flag is going to be picked up. The higher ups, if you will, believe that's a bad optic. But the verbiage that you use, certainly you want to explain. There is no foul for offensive pass interference. The pass did not cross the line of scrimmage. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. And you see there, I think Steve Citro, again, thank you, Steve. He used some verbiage. He and I had spoken on the phone about this. Okay. So if we're picking up a flag, we want to try to explain why we're picking it up. Okay, and there's a couple other examples there. Again, I'm not going to read them to you. Is this a new chat box statement here? Okay, during the run, during the kick, perfect. So if we have let's say a post scrimmage kick, enforcement foul, and a punt. When you report that to the referee, you've heard me say this before, folks. I should go to the referee and say during the return or during the kick. I think we have another chat box thing. Is NFHS going to remove this signal from the rule book then if they don't want us to use it? I'm not sure, Craig Lucas, which signal you're alluding to. So, okay, signal for this guy. Good question. I can't answer that right now. That's a good question. I know it is out of the NFL and collegiate rule book. Craig is telling us it's right now it's signal number 13. I don't know. That's a good question. I can't answer that tonight. I'm sure that, whenever is Mike Bartram or someone is this year's coming manual is this the second of the 2 years or the first of the 2 years?
I'd have to double check, Jimmy.
Okay, no worries. Okay. But again, good comments, good questions. All right, Steve, let's go on to the next slide. Use of the dead ball signal. Okay, now this is something that is a little bit new. So if you look at Jerry Mark right there, what we're saying is, and maybe Craig or someone else, okay, somebody put in, okay, that's no longer true. The dead ball signal is now simply being used for a foul that occurs after the play. For example, a false start, you would simply give the verbiage false start number 78 with the rolling hand signal. Again, we'll get a clarification on that, but the higher levels, they don't want the dead ball signal on neutral zone dead ball fouls. They just simply want the announcement. With Jerry Mark right, you see here, again, this would be a late hit out of bounds, something along those lines. Okay, where you then would say, after the play is over, personal foul, number 5, again, whatever. dead ball signals, again, and this is at the higher levels, and if we have to change it, we will. It's certainly not a big deal. Okay, but the idea is that there's too much talking. And if you have 5, 6, 10 a game, it really kind of gets just a little bit ornery and stuff. So again, we'll get a clarification on that, certainly by Sayreville, if not before. But the trend in football officiating at the collegiate and NFL level, you do not give the dead ball signal for false starts, encroachment, fouls of that nature. But again, we'll get a clarification. I see there's some more chat things.
Jim, we have a question. When you have a foul in a PAT, we have a few options. Please advise.
Great question. So let's suppose we have, let's say, illegal motion on a PAT and the kick is good. Obviously, the defense is going to accept the foul. So we would simply say illegal motion, number 21, 5-yard penalty, replay the try. And the word replay is very acceptable to use there. And let's also understand this relative to certain announcements such as PATs. Okay. It's always a good idea, always, despite PAT or not. What I'm trying to get to is, let's say it's late in the game and the team is down by 2 points or it's tied. They're on the offensive right hash, they're on the 3-yard line, 4-yard line going in. Sometimes they might intentionally take a delay game. If we've been around, we've seen this, so they get a better angle for the kicker. Let's never forget, as a referee and as a crew, the defense can decline. They don't need the yardage. They can say, we don't want the penalty being enforced. And what I'm trying to get at, and I'm not doing a good job of it, but if you read the rule book, there's a distinct difference between a foul and a penalty. And if I can just articulate that for a second. The foul is the act. For example, defensive pass interference is the foul. For example, false start is the foul. For example, late hit out of bounds is the foul. The penalty is the yardage, and any penalty can be declined. I once knew a state trooper who was an official, and he said, think of it like this. You drive your car too fast, you get pulled over for speeding. Speeding is the foul, the fine is the penalty. And I thought that was a pretty good analogy that I'd never heard before. But again, just to be clear, the verbiage, it's important. So we do not want to say something like defensive pass interference, 15-yard foul, because it's not a 15-yard foul. It's a 15-yard penalty. Assuming that it meets the criteria for that distance. Okay, so again, referees, please be careful with your verbiage. It's not difficult, right? But the foul is the illegal act. The penalty is the punishment for it. I drove too fast. I got a speeding ticket. And now on top of that, I get, the fine of, whatever the amount would be. So foul versus penalty, differentiate them in your announcements. False start, that's a 5-yard penalty. And I see a thing in the chat box here. If the penalty distance is declined, Mr. Becker, Tom Becker, are you asking, should that announcement be made? Absolutely. You have to remember, we're going to communicate to everyone in that stadium, the coaches, the players, the fans, the PA announcer, whomever. That's the whole idea of the mic and of the announcement. So these are all good questions. I certainly realize that a lot of this might be a little bit new and a little bit first time, and that's fine. And that's why we're kind of doing it this early in our second off-season training program. Okay, next, Steve, next slide. Okay. Now, one of the things that we've talked about, and I mentioned this to a number of referees that I had the opportunity to look at this past year in 2022. You see here a referee. All right. One of the things that was harped on to me for quite some time is, as a referee, when you are going to give a ready for play signal, let's say there's an incomplete pass and there was defensive pass interference. So after enforcement, it's let's say it resulted in a first down. When you give the chop, you should start high and come all the way down. Start high, come all the way down. That is especially true now with play clock operators. I know we don't have a lot of stadiums yet with the play clock visible, but you should start high and come all the way down. What people do wrong as referees, and I've seen this countless times, and once you mention it and once it's corrected, it's an easy fix, very, very easy fix. If you're going to wind the game clock, team makes a first down after a penalty, and on the defense, it's tacked on, whatever it is, done inbounds. When you're going to wind the game clock, it's just one signal. You start high and you wind and you go. You do not chop and wind. I'll repeat that even though it's there. Do not chop and then wind. It's just one continuous signal. You're making the ball ready for play. That's really all you're doing. And by making the ball ready for play, it is now legal for teammate to snap the ball. And obviously when you wind, the game clock operator now is starting the game clock. So to sum it up, it's one action only. It's not a double action. And referees, please begin to think in those terms. It's much cleaner. It's much crisper. It just looks a whole lot better. This idea of chopping and then winding, it just looks disjointed. It kind of looks mechanical and stiff. One action only. Okay, Steve? All right. So here's an administrative timeout. You see the referee there, and we never want to give more than 2 or 3 of these. Okay, obviously, I mean, that's the PowerPoint is what the PowerPoint is, but we want to give 1 or 2 of these. If you give 3, please don't go beyond that. Okay, but a charge team timeout. Okay, timeout offense. This is another question back to the earlier question. Should we say this is, Somerville's first timeout, or should we just give the signal and point? As a referee, if you're positive which timeout it is, then it's okay to say this is their first charge timeout of the half, or this is their third and final timeout of that. But if you're not sure, please don't say this is their second timeout when it might only be their first or their third last timeout. And what I'm getting at, we want to be correct. We want to be excellent in our announcements. If I could see all of you in person, and the second thing here, less than 2 weeks ago in the Kansas City Chiefs Cincinnati Bengals AFC Conference Championship game, I don't know who was watching it, but if you were or were not, you may have heard from neighbors, friends, coworkers, whomever. The referee made a serious mistake with an announcement, and it really took a well officiated game and gave it a lot of the league office wasn't happy. I'm not going to talk out of school here, certainly, but the league office wasn't happy. There was a tremendous amount of confusion. Gene Steratore, who was the rules guy on the game back in New York at the studio, actually said something to the effect, yes, the referee erred, which Gene is, he's an official through and through. And what happened was there was an incomplete pass on 2nd down and 9. And on the play, there had been an illegal motion penalty, I think it was. The defense declined the penalty, making it 3rd down and 9. The referee makes the ball ready for play. Please stay with me here. The referee makes the ball ready for play. And as the team is huddling and they come out of the huddle, the linesman, the headline judge, as they're called in the NFL, or down judge, I should say, as they're called in the NFL, he came running in because the umpire had erroneously spotted the ball on the wrong side of the 40-yard line. The ball should have been on the 39.5. The offense is 39.5. And the umpire erroneously put the ball on the 40.5, like the wrong side of the 40. So now here comes the down judge running in, and he picks the ball up and moves it back a yard to the 39.5. So, okay, whatever, very good. At that exact point in time, the play clock was down to 9 seconds. I learned after this that the NFL has a rule, unlike high school, unlike college, that if the play clock is under 10 and needs to be reset, they reset it at 10. You don't go all the way back to 25. You don't do that in the NFL. You do that in high school and college. At any rate, when the referee made the announcement, he said, please reset the play clock to 10 seconds. And this is where the error occurred. He said, the game clock will start on my whistle. And one official caught it, which is also why, as officials on the field, you should listen to the referee's announcement. It helps all of us become more aware of down, distance, and clock if you try to listen. So at any rate, picture this scenario. The referee says, please put the play clock back to 10 seconds and the game clock will start on my ready for play whistle. Now the team comes up, they snap the ball. TV later shows an official, by the way, a Jersey official, okay, now living in Florida. He came running in. I talked to him about it. Tommy Hill, his 020 wasn't working over the crowd noise. It was so loud, nobody could hear. So he had to come running in. He comes running in just like the referees are trying to continually stop the clock. Okay. And then the referee, it was an incomplete pass. And then the referee announces that the previous play does not count. In essence, it was null and void because the field judge was running in, but nobody saw it on TV. And in the crowd, a lot of people probably didn't see it either, quite frankly. They're fixated on the ball, on the snap. So what should have been an easy announcement, because of an error, it set everything, it just set everything sideways is probably the best way to say it. And it made a very contentious last 7 minutes of the game. The coach of the defense, the Cincinnati Bengals, went crazy. And the very next play, there was a defensive holding, which in the NFL is an automatic first down. I mean, and the guy went berserk. The whole thing should have never happened. Never. And somebody just typed in here, lost credibility. That would be not only accurate, but extremely, extremely kind. The whole game went south because of a incorrect, erroneous referee announcement. So that's why it's important, folks. You got to take this seriously, and I'm not suggesting that you won't. It's not hard, but it really keeps you in the game. You got to stay with the game. So, and there's another possible thing, administrative. Okay, there's been a malfunction with the score, or I would say with the game clock. There's been a malfunction with the game clock. The official game time will be kept on the field. Okay, something to that extent, if we get something like that. But again, please think back to the second where it says adjustments to the game clock. If you're going to make that announcement, you must be correct, or very bad things can happen to the crew. Question here, Dave, what's this chat? It was not coming up on my screen. Can you read it for me or someone?
Does a clock operator
Oh,
in the
go ahead,
NFL
Steve.
have 020 to referee?
I don't know that. I don't, maybe
I
somebody
do.
here does.
I do, Jim. Yes, they do. The
Okay.
replay officials in the booth control all the microphones to the officials on the field. So the referee has a stadium mic and a mic to New York and a mic up to the replay people.
Okay, and I think Zach Gilbert also chimed in, yes. So Bruce and Zach, thanks for that clarification. John Becker, very good question. Now it just popped up on my screen. So thanks to all three of you. Okay, go ahead, Steve. Okay, so let's before we go, I have like 3 or 4 plays that we're going to look at. But are there any more chat box questions, Dave, about anything tonight that we've covered?
No, that's all of them.
Okay. And then just as a review, folks, just some thoughts for our referees. Remember, we want you to make announcements whether or not you have a microphone. This includes sub-varsity games, because the more you do it, the better you will get. And it becomes part of the routine, part of the pace, part of the tempo of the game. The crew will come to expect it. So will the players, so will the coaches. It's a great way. It's a great way to enhance your crew. I cannot overstate that. So number one, please, from this point forward, moving forward, just simply accept the fact that we would like you to make announcements on every foul. Freshman game, JV game, varsity game, with or without a microphone. Secondly, just again, sort of a review, a summary, okay? Fixate your eyes at the bottom of the press box and be still. Thirdly, your announcement should be the 2 C's, clear and concise. Clear and concise. If you keep those 3 concepts in mind when you make announcements, things will go much, much better. I think,
Should we announce non-foul action? For example, forward progress was stopped before the ball was loose.
Zachary Zarnik, that's a great question. The answer is yes. Anytime, great question. Anytime we can inform and communicate to people, we're better off. If we simply ignore stuff like that, everybody thinks we don't know what we're doing. If we make an announcement like that, people might groan, they might think, oh, that's your, but at least there's an announcement to be made. One thing that we didn't put on the PowerPoint that's going through my mind now, I'd like you to consider this scenario as referees, which I learned a long time ago. There's another, should you make the announcement first and talk? You don't need to talk to coaches, Bruce. You don't need to talk to coaches. But what I'm bringing up is this. Many times throughout the course of a game or in a season, we're going to have fouls by each team, dead ball fouls, maybe pushing, shoving, late, whatever. Okay. So please follow me on this example I'm going to present to you all. When we have a situation where the penalty yardage is going to offset, we're not going to go 15 one way and then backward. We have a situation, and Brad Allen and I have talked about this extensively. Okay. When the penalty yardage is going to offset, think about doing this as a referee. Start with after the play, personal foul, and always go the home team first. And then follow with personal foul, the other team. Those fouls offset, third down, whatever it could be. The reason you want to do this, is when you announce the home team first, but then it's like when you go, okay, if you say the visiting team first, yeah, and then the home team, oh, you guys think. So it's just a little trick of the trade. Okay, announce the home team first when we have, again, the penalty yardage has to offset. 2, after the play, 15-yard fouls that are going to go against each team. We're not going to mark it off. Announce the home team first, that player's number if we have it, and then the visiting team. It's just a little bit better optic. There's some other questions. Can we put all these referee points? What does that say? It's jumping on me here. I'm not sure. Dave, is there a chat box?
Into the six-man manual, Jim? Can be all these points being departed?
Well, we can certainly have a summation of it. Is that John or Dennis? It's coming up to me as I'm not
John.
sure.
John Dennis.
Okay,
That's his name, John
Okay,
Dennis.
all right, John Dennis. Okay, John. Good question. We will certainly try to do that. Again, I know we typically have 2 mechanics manual meetings in the off season. So certainly we'll try to summarize that, what we're doing tonight in the 6-man manual. So thank you for that idea there, Mr. John Dennis, now that I have that correct. Thank you, Bruce. Okay. Another question.
Has the mechanics committee advised or discussed whether Mike should be on or off for the opening coin toss and or overtime?
We have not, but the
No.
answer is if it's a good idea to do it if the referee is confident. It's absolutely a good idea. Captain, what will your call be? Calling tails. Tails, please call that again so we have no misunderstanding, then flip the coin. So if the referee's comfortable, by all means do it. If not, that's okay. But obviously you're going to still use signals, tap on the shoulder, defer, whatever the winning of the toss captain is going to do. But yes, if the referee's comfortable, again, think along these lines, folks. There's no secrets here. Be as transparent as possible. The microphone is the greatest communication device for officiating that's ever been invented. Let's look at it from that perspective. Okay. Are they the?
That's it.
That's it.
All right. So that's kind of the summary of the referee mic announcements. I believe this will be archived, or if somebody wants the PowerPoint, either Bruce or Bill Fleming or Steve, one of these high IT guys will get it to everyone, or whomever would like to see it, whatever, that's fine. But if there's no further questions, I think we have, like I said, 3 or 4 plays that we'll pull up here, just some general football plays. So we always incorporate some video into these sessions. So, and I as Steve is pulling that up, I really appreciate the chat box comments, questions, or whatever, that really helps this thing roll. So thank you, whomever and everyone, for that. So, all right. So Here's a play from a game. This is this past year, 2022. All right, and we're just going to take a look at this play from an overall perspective. Okay, and we'll roll from there. And if we have a foul, then we'll talk about the referee's announcement incorporated into it. Okay, Steve? Stop it right here. Mechanically, the short wing at the bottom is correctly pointing back to indicating we have one stationary set player outside the tight end. Obviously, the player whose left foot is on like the 39-yard line is clearly in the backfield, as is the player up top. And we can't see the short wing up top, but he should also be punching back with the index finger one as the official is at the bottom. Obviously, I don't know if this is the linesman or line judge, because I don't know if it's the first or second half, but we're starting off real good here just before the play starts. So, okay, Steve. Now, once we're in motion, great mechanic, you drop your arm. If we could go back to that, Steve. I know Eddie and Steve himself did this stuff last or whenever it was in January. But when a player goes in motion, short wings, drop your arms. The signal in the backfield is only for stationary players. All right. Okay, so Steve, let's go back to that play. And let's just hypothetically, all right, we're on the minus 42. And let's take what Mike Bartram said at the beginning. We're going to assume, just for the sake of the discussion, that the player, the left tight end, you can all see who he is. He's like right kind of in the middle of the field. Thank you, Steve. We're going to assume that he holds the defensive lineman at the 40-yard line, 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And just not everybody, please, but somebody put it. Okay, if that happens on this play, starting in 2023, where, if the defense accepts that holding foul, where would it be enforced from? Maybe one guy quickly in the chat box. Where would we enforce that foul from? Okay, okay, Bruce Cryer, 40. The answer is the previous spot, and it happens to be the 42-yard line. So on this play here, the guy loses 4 yards. So as officials here, we got to have our head in the game, because the defensive coach who's down at the bottom, if I'm that short wing or the deep wing, I've got to go up to that coach and say, hey, do you want the foul? Because if they lost 4 yards, now it's going to be 2nd and 14 versus 1st and 20. That's a legitimate question. That's a legitimate question to ask. Last year, probably, yeah, take him back, take him back. This year, you know, it's only a 6-yard penalty, but they get the down over. So it's worth discussing. Coach, it's going to be 1st and 20 or 2nd and 14. Which is your preference? One of the things I learned a long time ago, folks, whenever you're giving coach a penalty option, do not say to the coach, if you accept it this, if you decline it this. If you give him down and distance, you're far better off. Coach, it's going to be either 1st and 20 or 2nd and 14. Which is your preference? Coaches always think of, they teach their players, staffing said, in terms of down and distance. Forget the words accept or decline with the coach. Down and distance, 1st and 20 or 2nd and 14.
Hey, Jim?
Yes.
It would also have a bearing on time,
course.
time of the game, first quarter versus fourth quarter. That may have a bearing on it.
The score,
Time of score.
absolutely, sure.
Time of score.
If the defense is losing 17-14 and there's 3 minutes left in the game, they might very well decline the foul, right? So now they've already used up a down. If this is the first quarter, they might take it. So Dave, whoever, I don't know if it's you or whomever,
That was
absolutely. That's thinking the game. You cannot officiate a football game well if your head is in a vacuum. You can't do it. It's a thinking man's game to officiate. Okay, go ahead, Steve, run this play again, and we'll go from there. Okay. What's the next question in the chat box, Dave? I thought,
Is IG penalty distance still from the spot of the pass?
yes, it's a spot
Yes.
foul.
Yep.
It's changed. Yes.
Um,
It down.
right. And, okay, so this player, the guy lost about 4 yards. Again, the defense might, if there was a holding foul at the 40, they might very well decline it. Okay, Steve, next play, please. Is there another chat thing, Dave? Chat comment?
No,
No.
Okay, for some reason, my computer, okay. All right, so now we know we're double sticks. We know we have more than 10 yards to go. Okay. All right, kid runs the ball. Nice run. Okay, suppose we have a late hit out of bounds at the, looks like the short wing is marking it at the plus 44 or plus 45, say, make it easy, okay? Let's say it's a late hit out of bounds against blue, the defense. Our announcement should be something like, excuse me, after the play, a late hit out of bounds, number 16, 15-yard penalty. And you see on this play, ironically, there is a foul back at the 44, the minus 44 for offensive holding. You see the coach at the 47 must see that, and he is assuming that it is, in fact, a foul on the offense. So with that said, we started here at the 39, the minus 39, go all the way back to there, not on the screen, Steve, but in your mind. Go back to the minus 39. The guy ran the ball for a 16-yard gain. We have a flag at the 44. Now, this flag has nothing to do with the new rule. All we have here is a running play which ended beyond. The foul is beyond. So somebody in a chat box or whatever, where are we going with this? Don't tell me the yard line. Give me the verbiage. Peter Schmidt, 1000% correct. It's a spot foul. 44 back to the 34. And umpires, the lateral location of the ball will be the offensive right hash. I'll repeat that. Because it's a spot foul, the lateral location of the ball would be on the offensive right hash. Okay, and we're going from the minus 44 back to the minus 34. Okay, I think somebody, perfect.
Bruce,
Okay?
yeah, it's in there from the, holding
Yep.
from the 44 to the 34 right hash.
Okay, very good. Okay. So we, again, referees here, think about this and keep that screen right there, Steve Citro. If you're a referee on this play, okay, with the O2Os, let's say that the official at the bottom, let's hypothetically assume he's the line judge. If it was his flag, again, we're being hypothetical here, he should get on the O2O to the referee and say, Dave, I have number 55 offense holding. Referees, you do not need to run down to the official if you got the information. The official at the bottom here, he's got to hold the dead ball spot. Okay, don't put the ball down and leave it until somebody's there if you want to hurry up and report it. I think one of the things that Mark Bitar and I have talked about and others, where we don't have a good balance on penalty enforcement. We're either too slow or too fast. There's no reason for that. No reason for that. Richard Collins, remind the chain crew not to move. Of course, anytime we see a foul. So up top, this official should be saying, hold, freeze, whatever verbiage he's going to use with those folks, okay? But referees, getting back to your announcement here, okay? You don't need to run down the field 15 or 20 yards. What you'd want to do here, Steve, can you slow motion the video? I want to try to find an open area for the referee to where he would make his announcement on this play. Forward a little bit, Steve, if you can, I don't know. Keep going. All right, well, and so now look at this, okay? It must have been a previous spot foul because the ball started on the left hash. Well, that's the play, Steve. So can we go forward where we were and then maybe a little bit farther forward to where the referee would come into the picture if in fact he does?
That's the end of the clip, Jim.
Okay, so my point is this: if you're a referee here, look at this play right here. If you get to the right around the flag area, stop right there. You're absolutely in a clear area. There's no reason to run all the way down, waste all that time. And by the way, once you make the announcement, which is around the flag, again, I know it's not, but I'm going to assume, well, it might have been an offensive hold. Make the announcement there, holding, number 55 offense, 10-yard penalty, replay second down. Then immediately go back to where you are going to wind the clock from. So that once the umpire gets the ball back to the 44, marches it 10 yards back to the 34, when the umpire puts the ball down and we have our check with our shoulders, you should be ready to wind within a 1001 count. That's how we can improve our efficiency of fouls. And that's the key word. Don't be quick. Don't be slow. The key word I would like to stress to folks is be efficient with penalty enforcement. Chat box,
No. The
Okay.
referee should be about the 20-yard line. If they're going back to the 34, the R is 13 to 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, so he should be around the 20-yard line.
and that's fine. I mean, he might have come up a little bit here or whatever, but again, the kid ran for 16 yards, all right, obviously notwithstanding the foul. But the point is, that especially with O2O's referee, you do not need to run all the way down the field to where the, again, hypothetical line judge is at the plus 45. That's just a waste of time. That's all it is. Nothing is accomplished by doing that. Okay, Steve, can we pull up one more play and then we'll wrap it up? Okay, same game. By the way, it looks like we did enforce that foul as a whole. We missed it by a yard. How many of you see that? Unless we readjusted the flag, I don't know that. But these things are important. If it's a spot foul, it means exactly where it is. So we went from the 44 to the 33. I know of no foul in football that's 11 yards. Little things matter. Little things make the biggest difference.
Yes, they do.
Okay, Steve, this play. Pass, right, incomplete. Love the official up top. He still signals incomplete. Now look at the umpire hustling, and we know that the next snap should take place from the offensive team's right hash mark. Team A's right hash mark, right? Perfect. Okay, and that's exactly where it belongs. So again, anytime we have video, we can always pick out things that are applicable to every official, whether or not there's a foul, whatever the scenario would be. Mechanics, being still, especially his short wings, that gentleman up top held the line of scrimmage, which is exactly what we want. So with all that said, does anyone have any other chat box questions? Or Scott, I'll turn it back over to you to remind folks of whatever it is you might need to remind folks of. I'm scrolling down through this.
No, there's nothing.
Okay. All right. So again, I want to thank the thing showing me 167, whatever, but thank you all so very much on this winter night. I hope everybody is well. And, you know, it seems a long time away, but as Mike said, the new rules have been published. Appreciate Mike Barcham sending them to everyone. Scott Campbell, thank you very much for kind of getting on and kicking us off. And Scott, we'll turn it over to you. Do you have anything left over, Scott Campbell, for the group?
All right, Jim, thank you. Great job as usual. And as a reminder, Jim will be back again in 2 weeks on February 22nd for the OPI DPI discussion, which is always a good one and always leads to a lot of conversation amongst officials. So just a reminder, that'll come out, that invite will come out probably next week for everybody to register again for February 22nd. And also, like I said, look for an email from your chapter representative regarding any suggestions you may have in the regards to the 6-man mechanics change. Because we're going to get that'll creep up as soon as, you know, as we know it, with regards to getting everything together. So just look for that. Otherwise, great session. Thanks for the participation, and everyone stay safe. And I know all my North Jersey friends will be appreciative of this. Go Birds.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
Good night, everyone. Thanks
All right,
again.
good night,
everybody.
guys. Stay safe. Be good.
See you in 2
Thanks
weeks.
again.